Welcome back, everybody. It is time for the losers match. Will Curious or RorO fall down?
Well,
I think RorO.
With how RorO performed in the first CBZ, we almost say lack of performance. I think Curious is an easy prediction here to advance. And RorO just had some misfortune, I would say, as well against Life. Like, his builds just kind of got countered, especially in the first game where he messed up with his micro, first of all. And Life's micro is just so good in general. But the choices of builds that he made makes him feel a little bit like he was so aggressive that I feel like he is not comfortable in the mid game of this matchup right now.
Yeah. I feel like CBZ has always been, always will be a matchup where macro players don't feel as comfortable because it's kind of like razor's edge type of scenarios. But we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Getting this match started. RorO against Curious. One of these guys drops down.
– 2014 Hot 6 GSL Season 1 Round 16 Curious versus RorO.
You know, so just a quick little story about RorO, because as I said, macro Zergs generally have a little bit of a harder time. Normally feel a little bit more comfortable in matchups where, well, their mechanics and their macro kicks in a little bit more than their micro and their like razor thin lines of how many Zerglings to make and stuff like that. But anyways, I think I've told this story before for sure, because RorO is a player that really resonates with me. Back in StarCraft 1, there was this era of pro Zergs where the pro Zergs that were coming in to StarCraft 1 for a while, like after 2-hatch Muta became a ridiculous build in every matchup, basically. Basically every pro Zerg that became a pro in StarCraft 1 was just a 2-hatch Mutalist user, and a lot of them were just completely skillless in every other way. They could just make Mutas and do the one build and micro the Mutas like crazy, but the understanding of the game, the skill that they had was minimal compared to any other pro gamer. Yeah. And it was actually like kind of a disgusting time, I feel, where like a bunch of people became pros off of stupid stuff. But during that time, by the way, one of my most players that I dislike the most, Shine, is one of those exact players that was like, well, I just micro mutas. That's the only thing I can do. Of course, he's become much better nowadays. But anyways, back to the story, back to RorO. He was one of the only Zergs during that era that came in and only went 3-hatch every game, which was the strong macro build.
Yeah, that's his style, man.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I respect Amaga so much as well. Same time era, he came in as a 3-hatch Zerg, where all the other new Zergs were like, wait, look at my mutas. I can micro them.
Well, you know,
playing a different game than the rest of us. Anyways,
this game is pretty mirrored here. They both took gas and got early hatches.
I would say exactly mirrored.
Yeah, it looks like
those build times on everything.
Yeah, for this one, it's exactly the same. You know, that story reminds me actually of the era of Protoss, like in late 2010, early 2011 for StarCraft 2, where players like Hongan and AnyPro were doing really well with Blink Stalker timings.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
if the game was different, they could not actually. And I actually always love those Zerg players because that's the same as me. Like, I was never actually like the best macro player there ever was. I was just an all-in guy, but I played short, fun games.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not to say anything about the funness of it or that they shouldn't do it, because
it's just a lack of depth, really.
Yeah, it's harder for me personally to respect that type of play. But anyways, let's take a look at this. RorO is actually continuing to mine gas after getting speed and throwing up a Baneling Nest.
Yeah.
And here's the fact that we see no gas being mined by Curious. If he doesn't start a Spine Crawler, he could be in a lot of trouble.
Attacking his own Spine Crawler is definitely not the answer to this, certainly, either. I mean, attacking his own spawning pool. We'll actually eventually kill that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to commit to a Baneling attack. He made the Baneling Nest at the front, right? So it's a little bit easier to spot.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the times when you do make that Baneling Nest, and especially when you walk around and see that they have no gas, I would like to see him poke up, maybe with a few lings.
He canceled it, right? Actually, like it's...
yeah, it looks like he did cancel it. Okay. So, but I don't mind when I see someone run up with like 10 lings, then morph one Baneling and just like really freak out their opponent, because if you get one lucky Baneling, it definitely gives you a big lead. But he has canceled that, as you said, Wolf.
Yeah, and those Lings actually finish speed like 2 seconds faster, and that 2 seconds actually allows him to get into the base here and see everything. You know, I feel like he made the Bailing Nest defensively, and then as soon as he got this early in the main base, saw how much gas there was, he was like, oh, I don't need this. I'm going to cancel it. So it's
a good play.
Pretty good decision-making there.
Can't really blame him for any of this. Now, we do have a third base going up for RorO.
This is one of those bases where he's kind of like forcing it out, where he's just getting so many Lings on the map, where he loses drones for a little while, but he's got control. It's very difficult to scout this, you know. Well, he's got an Overlord over there to scout it, but it's not close enough, so you should probably move that. But he doesn't have any way to move out and pressure this right now, and he has to kind of be on the defensive a little bit. He's even killing these tumors. I really like that.
And look at this. He actually sees the double Evo coming up. So when you see that, you pretty much know it's Roaches, and he throws up his own Roach Horn because this is what's going to happen. He's going to have to, you know, by taking this quicker third and having these extra Lings, he's delaying the third of his opponent, which means very likely Curious is going to try to hit a Roach timing.
Yeah.
But if RorO can hold off that Roach timing while getting a few extra drones on his third base, he's going to be in marvelous shape.
Yeah, he's really doing a great job with these Lings so far, keeping the pressure on and also even killing tumors. Killing the tumors means that you can use those Lings to further deny a third base a little bit easier, and also, if that Roach timing does come, it's going to take just even a little bit longer to get across the map.
That is for sure. And, you know, a little bit less vision, things like that. Now, we do have these Lings actually trying to hit this base. We have had some additional Lings made by Curious, and in fact, he may be able to end up getting this hatch.
I think he can. There's no Roaches over here. And the Queens actually get a little bit isolated. One of them will go down here. That's very unfortunate. The second one may actually fall as well. It looks like he's going to get both, kill those Lings, and then maybe even just turn around and kill that hatch.
Well, now we have enough Lings for RorO. I think that he's probably not going to lose the hatch.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, yeah, he's got enough here. There's no more reinforcements coming across.
But still, 2 Queens killed off is pretty huge, really. And on top of this, Curious is taking his third. Of course, it's a little bit slower, but as far as production goes, he's got his Queens still, so that's pretty nice. Yeah. And he is going to have 1-1 Roach Speed and Burrow all before RorO does.
Really nice block here, but it's not going to be enough to stop these Lings from now getting to the main base. And he's going to, eye for an eye, try to kill this Queen here. Don't think he's actually going to get it, though, with the Roaches and the positioning of that Queen. These Lings are could be another story, though. He's going to actually try to link them together here.
Yeah, he's actually just running these straight in and going for these Queens. In fact, as you said, Wolf, one of them gets transfused twice already. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to save it, but a lot of Lings do go down.
Just killing some drones here on the main base, trying to trade those Lings. Looks like he only gets one. Will he get this third Queen? Actually, no.
Oh, that was close.
Yeah, 9 hit points left on that one.
Okay, so he gets a couple Queens. Let's see here. That 1-1 is going to finish up for Curious, but +1 gets finished up for RorO.
There's a shot of Curious.
Yep. And there's a shot of RorO.
There's a shot of RorO.
Huh, keeping it fair here.
Keeping it. It's basically eye for an eye so far for everything, man. Killing those Queens.
Yeah.
Is that Hanarabu who had that philosophy?
I believe so. You cut off someone's hand if they steal or something like that?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly eye for an eye, though.
Not quite.
Because whatever I steal from you is not as important as my hand. Unless it's your hand.
That's true. Well, this Roach push here is actually pretty tough to hold on to. And he's actually able to isolate some of these Roaches. More reinforcements coming down here for RorO on the other hand. And it looks like he's going to end up trading fairly evenly here.
Well, we have a pretty similar number of Roaches, but don't forget, whenever you're attacking your opponent, his hatches are a lot closer, so that's definitely something that can factor into it. Now, a few Lings coming up, a few Roach reinforcements as well, but Roach is starting to pop out of this third base, and it looks like RorO's going to hold.
Yep, he does hold, and definitely gets the better trade overall there. And he also has +2 on the way. The 1-1 upgrades, though, kind of nullify that in a sense. That also meant that during that fight, he was trying to capitalize on that.
And don't forget this Burrow actually coming in very useful. In fact, he's going to go in with this little group of Roaches into 3 different locations. So this is really forcing a lot of Overseers to pop out.
Yeah, a lot of Overseers to pop out and a lot of Roaches to be split in different directions. If he messes up even for a second, he's going to lose drones.
And during this time, Curious has gained a drone advantage, and he's making nothing but Roaches now, which is basically exactly what he needs to do. He can sit on these 50 drones and make a ton of Roaches and just harass as much as possible, because right now he's up like 10 drones, and that's a big deal. That's going to allow him to just produce more and more. So even though he's losing some extra Roaches, he can produce more Roaches.
For sure. Counter burrow on the way for RorO, but Not going to be too useful in the long run. One thing that's really missing for Curious, though, with all the commitment to Roaches is he spent a lot of gas on that. Doesn't actually have the additional upgrades going up, so he could have potentially been researching 2-2, but it would have cost him some Roaches, and he wants to keep his Roach count quite high right now.
Yeah, and I think that is right because he did choose to do the harassment, so he can't do the macro play of continuing upgrades. But this does give RorO a small advantage because +2 attack on Roaches is better than 1-1.
It's more valuable.
In Roach versus Roach.
In Roach versus Roach. Because Roaches do damage in big, large numbers.
Yeah.
And
so, the +2 versus the +1 on the upgrade itself is just... Can't really be denied that in that specific matchup, it's going to be very nice.
Especially if you consider attacking structures, as well as factoring into that, because then get that Carapace upgrade.
Well, right now we just do see a lot of Roaches being made.
Yeah.
RorO getting bro movement, not surprised at all to see that. Really a fan of that upgrade.
Yeah, he's pretty good at microing his Roaches and getting in different locations. Kind of like we saw from Curious earlier, but it's just much more dangerous, much harder to deal with when there's movement on the way. You can't just right-click and overseer near them and everything's going to be fine. You got to actually really pay attention to where they're going. Now, finally started the +2 upgrade. It has Curious.
And, again, he's been up on drones for quite a while since those attacks, so he's going to be the one with the macro hatch, which is quite nice.
Yep.
So he's going to be able to really produce a lot of Roaches.
RorO is... He's considering coming up here with that Spine Core on the ramp. It was a bit difficult for him to actually commit there. Defender is always going to have the person who's on the other side of a ramp is always going to have an advantage with concave, and so it's difficult for him to attack. And actually, after he traded a little bit, he was even able to chase down and kill a few more Roaches. He's...
We're going to go into maxed Roach play, man.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to see people add on some other tech structures. As you can't just always go only Roaches.
Yeah, like usually.
Yeah, usually.
Well, the thing is, Hydras are actually a little bit stronger in this matchup now because of that patch.
Certainly, and in fact, even before the patch, I would say that as you near your max, you want to have some Hydras in there because they have the longer range. You're just, no matter what the surface area looks like, you are going to have more firing units, and Hydras have higher DPS. So if you have enough Roaches to buffer for them, it simply makes your army better.
Yeah, it's just... Otherwise, you watch Roaches run back and forth, trying to get in there and do damage, and they can only do damage once the rest of the units die. Infestors is something we might see added in as well.
Definitely a possibility, and in fact, if you do go into Roach Hydra versus Roach Hydra in a long game where you can't bust each other, that's where Swarm Hosts come into play.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot, actually, especially on Stefano's stream. And he actually is going to try to force a fight here. He had the better Roach numbers because some of the Roaches were away, and he's actually going to fight over here as well. I don't know if +2 finished. Did it actually finish? It might have.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to commit here. He has an upgrade advantage.
Well, right now we do have Curious continuing to stream across the map. He definitely does have a supply lead, but again, it's very hard when you're pretty even to be the aggressor in Roach on Roach.
And it looks like actually his upgrade did not finish. Barely did not, as you can see on the production tab now. So I thought he had that going into that fight, which would be kind of one reason why he might have committed there, but he did not have it, so that hurts a little bit. And even a 4th base now being added here for RorO.
That's pretty fantastic that he actually took the time to kill those rocks off. Taking that base is pretty awesome. It's so easy to defend. Basically, your opponent's never going to attack it.
Yeah, it's basically impossible to attack that unless you've won the game.
So I would say that here for RorO, maybe a little bit of harassment is okay. But he's got to be careful. He doesn't want to lose any of his units, really, because he's going to be taking this 4th base.
Yeah.
I love how he leads with this
check. Oh, wow. But he's going to split these, of course, into 2 groups. I don't even think he's realized that these are here. Even though he has vision on the minimap, he's not reacting at all, and this is going to cost him quite dearly.
Oh, man. And look at this. Look how he's lining up. As he moves his rest of his army across the map, he unburrows the Roaches. This is going to force Curious to really spread himself pretty thin.
Yeah. He's got units at the natural to defend, but he doesn't have anything here at his macro hatch in his 3rd base. Now he sends them over, of course. But Roach and the main base are cleaned up. Meanwhile, though, he's going for his own counter-harassment. And this fight could actually determine a lot here. We'll see if he actually has enough to push his way through. It's hard to say, to be honest.
Well, right now we do have pretty similar Roach counts, but the 3rd base does fall for RorO. That means that he has to get a lot of damage done over here, and so far so good. He's killing off quite a large army.
Yeah. The macro hatch is really important here. It gives him so much extra larva to work with. And, you know, he's very down in harvesters right now, but he's still mining from a third base. And also that fourth base that now RorO has is really going to come into play here because he doesn't have to remake the hatchery. He can just slide his drones over there instead. It's gonna, like you said, going to be basically impossible for Curious to attack that location. He's doing a lot more damage here on the main base, though. Yeah,
quite a few drones being picked off. And, in fact, we do see, you know, Curious is... I feel like this is pretty good for Curious, man. It's,
here's
even though his supply is pretty significantly lower right now by 20, still he's got that third base, he's got the macro hatch up, and he's done a pretty good amount of damage with that roach harassment.
I want to ask you a question that doesn't really have an answer, but why are Roach or players in this matchup not burrowing their drones to defend? Because you're not having an overseer with those roaches you're attacking with.
Oh, that is true.
That could actually save a lot of drone lives. He's got, speaking of overseers, he's got quite a lot of these. He's just going to go contaminate these hatches, which is awesome.
That's pretty cool. I really like this move.
Like,
really put a hiccup in that production.
Yeah, he's like hitting every single one of them. He will hit all of them. He's like making, RorO could start making spore crawlers for the fence, how well he's doing that. He's like, spore crawlers do bonus damage to bio, like maybe I should get some of those for these overseers.
Yeah, that's... that would be an interesting play.
If he just keeps doing this, he's going to really hurt the production, and there's so much dead space, it's kind of hard to actually kill those overseers.
That's for sure. But, you know, RorO is maxed out, so, you know, I guess it's definitely going to hurt how many larvae he has to re-max out if he does end up losing an army.
I mean, he's just camping these overseers over there, too. There's actually, he's not even flying them away.
Well, you know, if there's no queen there, no sense in running them away, I guess.
Right. Better roach count here for RorO, actually, like quite a significant amount. He's just going to try to end this.
He has so many roaches here, and this base is definitely one that Curious is going to need to have very shortly, or is his main and natural mined out.
Yep, this is not looking good here for Curious. I think
it is.
He's got no bank left, and I mean, he's got larva. He just doesn't have the resources to spend it on that larva. And he's losing drones here. He's got roaches at his third base as well, killing some drones. And RorO, just with that fourth base being remade, is in a stellar position here in this game now. He's actually continuing to even do damage and trade.
Well, Curious is down in drones and he's down in army. Not too significantly down in army. He's pretty close on that one. So definitely still has some potential. But the problem is, you know, he's only mining from this third. He lost that fourth base, whereas we're going to have the third remade for RorO, which will bring him up to 2 fully mining bases compared to 1.
This is a pretty bad spot for Curious losing that fourth base as well. I don't know what he can actually do to recover here. He's going to have to hope for a good engagement, basically. I guess that's his only hope here.
There's not even really anything to be clever about here, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's how this matchup goes. Once the players get to that really high roach count, I mean...
If the game gets into a situation where you're actually not using any other tech of units, it's just roaches, Roach versus Roach is kind of straightforward.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. Really.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, you look for concaves, you look for having more roaches.
It's not like Curious is going to like burrow his weakened roaches perfectly and regen them like in a fight and win that way. That's just not going to happen. Yeah,
certainly not. The regen rate is not worth the missed attacks. That's for sure.
Can't use them like blink stalkers.
Yeah, this is a rough thing to try to come back from. You know, if this was a game where we had more tech units, there would be some options, but as is, RorO has more roaches.
And he's going to get a pretty nice concave here, it looks like, at the natural, and he's going to crush this army. This is going to be the last fight, most likely.
Yeah.
Curious doesn't even have a bank really to remax with, whereas RorO just has a much better economy. And he may hold this for now. But just look at the supply. He has so much more money to remax. He's making so many more roaches right now. Even though you don't have the production tab up, I guarantee you it's full of roaches for RorO here.
Yeah, it would be pretty surprising if it was anything else that it was full of. And in fact, nice little usage of burrow movement there. Take a few less shots and get out of there. But his supply continues to be much higher. His roach count much higher as well.
He has more economy. And once Curious actually mines out this natural, he's not going to have really any mining. Or the third base, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Natural's already mined out.
The thing is, he hasn't even tried to take another base after losing that last hatch. And that's a real issue.
Yeah, he knows RorO's not going to let him.
As long as RorO is like kind of checking that there's no fourth in the back, He should feel very confident. He doesn't even really need to attack. He just needs to sit back and defend.
He's just going to max out and then attack again, then max out, then attack again every time.
It's a good strat.
Curious' last effort here, trying to push his way through. Maybe he could take the game. That's what he's thinking, but the answer is no. I mean, look at the army supply, 106 to 58. GG.
Okay. RorO has to be pretty happy with that.
A tough one game. He almost looks like mentally exhausted by it.
It was kind of a weird one because, well, you know, RorO, he got his bases up. I loved how Curious sniped the hatch, but, you know, he tried to put in his harassment. He lost a few too many roaches. It was, I guess, looking back on it, it was too greedy because even though he was like the one doing the damage, he took out the hatchery. He killed some drones off. Do you really need to do both?
No.
Because you kill a hatchery, already he has more drones than he needs, and then you're like also using roaches and losing roaches to kill drones, which is allowing him to gain an army advantage. And RorO really pushed that army advantage and ended up winning because of it. So I liked Curious's play, but wasn't quite enough here.
No, definitely not. Frost is the map that Curious picks here. Definitely wants to play a longer game again, looks like. Seems to be the plan. And could also try to do an early pull on this map, because we talked about that before. Like, it's the versions is small enough that you can throw your opponent off with that and get ahead.
Yeah, that is true. He could try something like that. We'll see. You know, the thing is, I'm afraid for both these guys to go up and face life, even though that's quote-unquote his worst matchup.
Yeah.
I feel like he's definitely shown better ZVZ than these guys so far.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would agree with you completely. RorO actually himself used the 10 pool build on this map in the previous series. See if he does it again here.
Doubtful.
Very doubtful, especially with how well it went, or how poorly it went, to be more correct.
Well, it can't go more poorly than that. He's only up from there, unless he hits the hatchery 3 banelings.
Let's find out if it happens again.